sides. And interestingly, H2K have banned Kalista in 9 of their 13 games.
And the weird thing now for this split about H2K, the biggest evolution I've seen for Forgiven as a player is it's now H2K banning AD carries. It used to be, you know, for SK at the beginning of last year, it was like, oh man, if they ban 3 champions, Forgiven doesn't play anything. Now it's like, Forgiven's like, yeah, just ban the top 3. I've got everything else in my playbook. I can play whatever you need me to, and I'm still going to do it as well. So I feel like that's why you're seeing a lot of the Kalista bans, because Forgiven doesn't need to play it and can play so much more.
And H2K play that style, where it's heavily focused around taking towers down. Forgiven's been playing Corki, Lucian, Caitlyn, his most played, and you can see Prolly and Lozak, 2 coaches behind the men. Lulu taken away from Giants, that will be the 9th time in 14 games, regardless of play. GP from H2K, want to deny that to xPePii, actually had a pretty good performance last week. And finally Lucian as well.
I feel like H2K just leave Kog'Maw open here and say, okay, you pick it, we'll take a 2v2 and I'll crush you. Because that's the mentality. That is the mentality of a player like Forgiven that knows he can win the 2 versus 2 and is not afraid of giving over such a strong pick that has such late game presence but fails so hard in the early game. We saw Sven getting somewhat shut down in the last game, did manage to get into the later game, but honestly, I don't think the same situation would happen here if Giants pick Kog'Maw first.
All right, what is available that we're not talking about? Alistair, Nidalee, Corki maybe, something that has been picked a lot on the side of H2K. It was actually first picked yesterday against Fnatic.
Alistair is available. Braum, Alistair is not available. It's Braum that is available in this game that wasn't in the last. So just got to keep track of that. Okay, I don't mind that as a first pick. I feel with Nidalee available though, a jungler like Jankos will look at this and go, okay, well, I'll take the Nidalee here, and I will just have a lot of presence on the map early game. I wonder what else they go for here, because I don't feel like H2K will get baited into the Kog'Maw pick. I feel like they don't even pick their AD carry here. They may go Braum Nidalee on this rotation. Depends on whether they want to get their hands on something for Odoamne as well as a priority.
High priority on Nautilus yesterday, and they're going to copy-paste. So this was their second rotation for H2K after they got Corki on blue side, and it worked out relatively well for H2K yesterday. And they're not revealing anything either. Elise still up, something that Jankos has played an exceptional amount. Most played champion, in fact, 5 games, as well as Nidalee. So, you know, BetongJocke is saying, right, pick whatever you want, and Jankos will still most likely be able to outplay him.
They also have the option now of picking up the Gragas, should the Kog'Maw go over. I think there's just a lot of picks still available to Jankos, so probably didn't want to rush that Nidalee if he doesn't feel like he has to have such a powerful pick to deal with BetongJocke.
Would Forgiven play another game of Kog'Maw? If you've got the protection from Braum, you've got some peel from Nautilus, put Gragas or Nidalee, both can do different ways of helping Kog.
I don't feel like he needs to, is the
okay.
Oh man, he may just look to play Caitlyn here and pick an AD carry that Ezreal can never really hit and has fairly similar strength at points in the game. In the laning phase, Ezreal can't fire Qs at Caitlyn because she just stands behind her minions. We know how much Forgiven does play Kate. He could play the Kog'Maw. That is another option that is available. Looking at other champions that are up. Also, now that Nidalee's been locked in, Jankos has the option for the Elise. Could also pick up something like a Kindred if they want to go the Kog'Maw route of things, and then they'd have a lot of protection for that Kog.
I'd prefer Gragas into all this poke.
That is true.
Giants have got a gigantic alarm bell saying we want to spam skill shots. When a few have hit, we will then do something else. No frontline at all to speak of, but they've got a Poppy that they can throw in there. Atom's also got the potential to run Shen if you want some sort of protection, and instead, Jankos is going to be going to Lee Sin.
I like it though. I don't mind the Lee Sin here in the situation where it's you're picking something to facilitate a little bit more of the early game. I wouldn't be surprised to see Ryu on something like a LeBlanc in this game that kind of curves out the Caitlyn fairly nicely. Nautilus doesn't provide a massive amount of damage. He has a fair amount from the top lane, but it's not the same as a carry from the top. So now you need something to supplement it. They're bringing some of that from their jungle pick with the Lee Sin with his early game presence, and now some of it potentially from that middle lane counter pick. They know it's going to be Corki. Not too many matchups actually are favorable against the Corki, but we'll see exactly what Ryu wants to run.
Yeah, for Giants, supports in top lane as what we're expecting. Atom has played 1 game of Tahm Kench. He actually picked that up as a No, I take it back. I'm looking at the wrong sheets. He's played no games of Tahm Kench. So this would be a first for Atom.
Oh, and as you say that, it gets changed.
I get ahead of myself. Too excited. But now there's no front line. So Giants, look, quasi-front line from Graves, but non-traditional.
Yeah, he's fairly susceptible, or fairly good at staying alive. The problem is, Giants, as you kind of mentioned, they have no tank, so they can't really take prolonged amounts of damage in a fight. They've got disengage coming from the Janna, and then a lot of poke and siege, which is a tough game to play against H2K, especially now that they've got wave clear coming from the Caitlyn. I expect a similar thing perhaps from Ryu if he doesn't want to opt for the likes of a LeBlanc in this game. But honestly, I feel like Giants are picking themselves into what is a very obvious composition here with the amount of poke that they've got, that H2K will be fairly happy to just play around. But right now we have to see what that mid lane pick is going to be.
That's... Assassin would be very happy into all of these squishy targets from Giants. And Giants are a team that are 2 wins and 11 losses. And they've picked themselves a team composition that looks exceptionally difficult to pull off, because there's not a lot of comeback mechanics, shall we say.
No, there really aren't, and good luck poking when you have no minions. You've got an Ahri, you've got a Caitlyn, both champions that will neutralize the single lane push from Giants.
And they're opting into a poke comp with a first pick Braum.
Yep, there's that as well.
How did it take me this long to realize the unbreakable? So Vander, if he can position himself between Giants and the rest of his squad, all of the tools for Odo and Jankos to engage will be there. So I don't know. Early game is going to be so important for Giants to make sure they don't fall behind and don't start to get picked off by this Nautilus, Ahri, Braum combination.
I think the problem here, though, is so Nidalee is very good at clearing her jungle, getting into the enemy jungle. Now you've got to go up against Jankos in his own jungle as Lee Sin, with the potential support coming from the likes of Ahri and Nautilus. If you take a bad skirmish in the early game from BetongJocke, this game could just fall completely out of Giants in any respect.
Yeah, it really can. The coach is shaking hands as they walk off stage, and I loved hearing from Bro that final quote or final sections of the video saying, well, if your players fail, it's because the coach, or he feels, did not find a way to explain what they could do. You guys at home, see if you agree with him. Hit us up on Twitter at LOL Esports with that hashtag H2KWin if they will tie up G2 Esports at the top of the table, or hashtag GIA win if you think Giants will pull off the biggest upset of the spring split. Stress, the flags are lit side by side, but they could not be further apart as far as the teams are concerned. H2K right at the top of the table, and Giants trying to claw their way out from the bottom.
I'm gonna say something that might shock you, Trevor, but this is somewhat of an improvement from Giants, and I'll back that up by saying they've come in and said, we don't know what play style we want to play, we don't know how we want to play. Well, they've told the world how they want to play in this game. They want to play poke, and they want to see if it works for them. I tentatively will ask you to stretch your mind back to last year and remember the blue build Ezreal games that Adryh had, a handful of the games that Giants actually won in the summer split. Saying that, I don't think it's enough to beat H2K in this setting, but it is an improvement of mindset from Giants having a clear game plan.
And I think it is a fair statement that Pepi's Lux last week or week before last was his standout performance in the laning phase. Got a decent CS advantage in a matchup that he could do well. We know Ryu will do fine once he gets to level 6, but he's got to get to level 6, and the Observer's taking us on a walk of wards as we're scanning across both sides of the rift. I think you could say vision advantage H2K. Maybe they've got it a little deeper, but they need to spot champions, and that's not been the case just yet.
I'm always wondering what we're looking for at this. I'm like, are they actually there? Are they not? Because I know sometimes the observers actually just bait us, and they're just showing us nobody behind the wall. But there we see Giants crossing through, and this situation, you can see H2K have locked themselves into the lane, the standard lanes here. They've got the Lee Sin down here as well. Jankos even gets himself the Krugs. Takes a lot of damage for it, though.
Yeah, and he does. Adryh was trying to get some autos down, but small advantage to Jankos stealing away at least a camp. We'll see if that holds true, if he can actually clear his jungle. We know how effective Nidalee is at clearing the waves, and we're setting ourselves into standard lane, Stress.
Yep.
So toe-to-toe, and we'll see who's going to get the early advantage.
So this is pretty good from Giants with the way that they got the information early. BetongJocke not only has the information that his support got, that Lee Sin was on the bottom side, they had a ward on red anyway, just to see whether he was starting top side. So it means BetongJocke has the ability now to go into the top side jungle, take away the buff, and Jankos didn't do the same on the lower side. So it means BetongJocke will end up with a 3-buff start if Jankos doesn't read what's up and heads bottom side.
Yeah, timing on Jankos, he's low on HP, so it will be risky. And we caught a glimpse of PePii eating a charm at level 2. So that's already a decent enough start for Ryu, especially if he can find PePii multiple times. But it is Flash Exhaust Corki into Flash Ignite Ryu.
Yes, the 1-6 is pretty difficult for Ahri against the Corki matchup, especially with how easy you can proc Thunderlords. Just turn on that Gatling gun, and if they're within range, you basically instantly get it. Jankos is behind the play here on his own jungle. Very rare that you see this, but H2K were going for a bit of a different start with having Jankos start down on the bottom side. I think they were expecting to be in a lane swap, but then kind of locked themselves into the 2v2, so Jankos is having to manage with this. We're going to have junglers clashing. Bottom side here. Look at BetongJocke's pathing. Look at where Jankos is. He will, however... Oh, this is risky.
This is scary indeed.
Oh, he so very nearly saw that he was on the Raptors.
Smite and Flash available for Jankos. BetongJocke is going to see...
He's rumbled.
The Bramble back is available. Does not find a target with the Javelin toss, and Ryu was already moving. He actually pulled in. Jankos is somewhat disappointed on the player cam. But there is the 3-buff start that we talked about in Jankos with a very, very late blue buff. It'll be interesting to see how the secondary spawn impacts the lanes, if at all, because that'll also potentially give PePii somewhat of an advantage if he's able to secure his teams, of course.
Now, how does BetongJocke cope with this? Because he spotted Jankos without the blue buff. So if he gets the read on this and can head to the blue, he knows Jankos is either fairly low or recalls. Jankos recalled. BetongJocke is low as well, so he can't go aggressive. He's choosing to take the level advantage here. Level 5 to level 3 here on the junglers as we start things off, and I believe he's ahead on gold as well. Bought a cloth armor. Actually refunds the cloth armor, switches it for boots just before we swapped over to the gold there.
400 advantage to BetongJocke. 24 CS to 10. All of the jungle creeps that Betong's been able to secure, and the fact that Jankos has spent a lot of time just running around for no payoff, means he's very, very far behind at this stage. But his AD carry, Forgiven, plus Vander, they've got themselves a 10 CS advantage. I think you somewhat expect that, because Janna Ezreal is just a super passive lane.
It is, and also has real difficulties. BetongJocke right now, once again, stamping his authority in this topside jungle, still has that level advantage. Jankos hasn't been able to get anything in the last couple of minutes, but that bottom lane matchup. So every time Ezreal steps forward to either throw out a Q or last hit the melee minions from Caitlyn, she steps just in the gap between her melee and her range, autos the Ezreal from extra range, forces Ezreal to back away, and you can't really farm effectively here because you're trading against a Caitlyn who has this lane dominance. You can see Adryh steps forward, takes a little bit of damage. This time it goes to GODFRED because the shield was on Adryh. It's just Forgiven, knowing who he has to trade on at what time very, very well, and this is one of his absolute strengths as a player.
It's one of the setups that he speaks so much about as well. In recent weeks, H2K have played the lane swap, have played the tower rush game. Decided to go toe-to-toe. So this is the first blue buff.
Hang on. Are they really doing this? Jankos is suffering significantly, but they want Ryu to stay ahead. So this is Jankos being completely selfless for his team. He's saying, okay, my time in this game is never going to come as a Lee Sin early game. It's already gone. I have to now look to just be an engage tool and offer the kick, and that is basically it. So I'm going to let you carry this game from the mid lane, look maybe from the bottom lane. So Jankos, that's quite a, I guess I would say it was fairly admirable to know his game's done, if it pays off.
Because the risk, of course, now that Jankos is still very far behind, down 20 CS, has not even picked up a buff yet, against what is actually a lot of damage on the Giant side. He's got to be exceptionally careful when he decides to go in, when he decides to engage. H2K's early game in this straight-up lanes is going to be difficult.
Recall was forced, and actually the early game, as we see Atom and Odoamne, no kill threat here. The early game bot lane just got so much harder for Giants. The timing that H2K backed away, BF sword into tier. The gank came from BetongJocke. They had a ward. They stopped the attempt. H2K recall. They recall first, so they'll hit level 6 first when they get back to the lane. And now Adryh has to go toe-to-toe with one of the most frustrating things to deal with. He luckily just gets himself a pickaxe, but no potions. He has no sustain in a lane that is going to poke him down. He now has to basically Q farm and try and get himself the melee minions.
Jankos is in trouble. BetongJocke's javelin toss will find Odo. Jankos is so desperate for farm. Invading into the jungle, you can see him rattling off information in your player cam. As Betong has actually done a very good job on this Nidalee, and we continue to see the strength that a Nidalee offers in the early stage of a game. The strong clear time, and you can see how effective Nidalee can shut down an enemy jungler when they commit to a plan that either backfires or just simply, you know, doesn't pay off. Maybe that's the same thing, but...
Well, I mean, you can have something that doesn't pay off without backfiring. That's not a problem, Trev. It's okay. It's
got wobbly caster legs today, Stress.
It's okay. I'll be your crutch for the day.
Thank you.
Don't worry, you can lean on me.
That works for me. xPePii's package is available. Yesterday, UOL and Fox used their mid lane Caitlyn to really great effect.
Oh, this is killing me inside.
Tell me why.
Look at the trades. Look at how much damage H2K are trading onto Giants because GODFRED is stepping on traps and then Adryh steps forward because he thinks that Forgiven's going to go on GODFRED. Oh, it's horrible to see the amount of damage that gets traded back and forth, but top lane, Atom's in trouble.
Jankos goes full Chuck Norris and kicks Atom at the roundhouse into Odo's hands.
Easy work to first blood there. Atom didn't even have the time to flash because it was the flash into kick from Jankos there. Again, he knew what he had to do, and that is to set up kills for the rest of his team now with the kick. BetongJocke goes in. I mean, that's not really anything that you want to do against the Nautilus. At this point, you can see H2K's percentage of how often they normally would win when they secure first blood. 62% is a decent one. Ooh, Ryu. Uncharacteristic miss there.
Yeah. And xPePii gets away, winning the trade. He's got that Sheen completed, components of Phage, but hasn't really punished Ryu that much. A 7 CS deficit. Because Ryu is still setting himself up very well to go into this mid-game.
We haven't really seen Ryu make too many plays because it's not really his point of the game. He went blasting one first to try and just get a little bit more damage in the lane, a bit more wave clear. But hasn't really been under too much pressure. It is how this matchup plays out though from the Corki. Very easy to farm on him, very safe, hard to gank. So not to be too surprised by the situation. However, Triforce has been delayed by Poppy, not by a big amount. Sorcerer's Shoes is a fairly standard way anyway, just I like to see the Triforce finished first a lot of the time, but now this gives him the option to dodge around the charm coming from Ryu, get out of the way of that Ahri.
See if they can make it work. Down the bottom lane, there is a party happening. True shot barrage just to try to clear some of the wave, but Jankos was waiting in tow. Dragon's Rage is available in a long-range package from xPePii. Jankos is taking a lot of damage. Eats a javelin as well. Odo, he TP'd up top, so he couldn't actually come down to the fight, I believe, unless he cancelled it.
He cancelled it.
Yeah.
He was roaming down, but he was TPing on the last minion in the wave, and the team had already disengaged. Jankos got chunked, Giants were backing away. No real kills from that fight, but there was a couple of big tools used in that. You saw the package used. Now H2K even get the tower from it. It was kind of inevitable that tower was going down from the situation that H2K had put themselves in. The last few minutes has expanded the bottom lane lead to 114 CS to 77 right now. That is a massive, massive disparity.
BetongJocke is coming to help out Atom. Odo, wow, forced a flash, afraid of the end of the line. Collateral damage is up as well, but Jankos is coming to play. He's already been involved in first blood, but there's way more support for Giants. Depth charge goes out, knocks up BetongJocke, and clears out the minion wave. H2K realize they may not want to bite off more than they can shoot.
Yeah, you could see H2K, as soon as they had vision on GODFRED, as soon as they had vision on Adryh, it was just a back away game, but Odoamne.
Good damage from BetongJocke. Jankos is the next target. Dredgeline pulls Betong back. He's running out of mana. Ace in the hole, and the rest of H2K secure their second, easily kill.
Oh, and the problem for Giants is they have no tank, and H2K is getting very far ahead in this setup. 2-0 on this game. Senpai Cape already has a fair amount of gold, or did have a fair amount of gold now as he's backed away, picked himself up a Glacial Shroud. It's going to be tough to deal with that the later this game goes. Yes, they have some sense of magic damage. Corki brings a fair amount, Nidalee brings a fair amount, but if Odoamne can just last through fights, then nobody on Giants is going to be able to take him down.
BetongJocke and GODFRED. I mean, that's over-eager. Adryh was nearby, but he's so late to join, and just a good play by H2K to collapse.
It was, and honestly, I was thinking to myself on the lead up to that play, you know, Giants sending their bot lane up to the top side to look for the tower is not the worst of decisions because of how quickly they made that decision. They were like, let's just put him up there, let's try and get this timing where we can have 4 people push the tower and that's it. Problem is, they were like, well, H2K, what are they going to answer with? Oh, they put their duo lane up there as well. Surprise, surprise. They're stronger right now with their itemization. So really, how do you take that play? I think it was the quote we had from Yamato on our quotes of the week coming into Coaches Week that was like, well, 80% of macro game, or was it Sean's, I think it was?
Sean's.
80% of macro game is, you know, anticipating what your opponent's response to your play is going to be. So they didn't anticipate that.
No, they did not. Odo's not going hungry tonight. He's got the hooks. He's getting the food. Different team, of course, but still counts. And yesterday, Forgiven actually skilled traps before level 12. It sent Crepo into a spin. He's done it again today. Lines out the ring of snap traps to try siege the tower down. And I think it's important to note, 140 CS to 99. That's at 14 minutes. Ace in the hole comes out. GODFRED almost killed just by the ultimate. Adryh uses Arcane Shift very aggressively forward. Vander and Forgiven continue to push. For every CS that Forgiven is ahead, Jankos is still behind. It's totals to 600 gold down because there's 2 assists and a tower in there. So it's actually slightly less impactful than it looks on CS values alone.
There's a lot of maths in there that I'm going to refrain from doing.
Yeah, don't make the mistakes
Otherwise
I've made in the past. Yep,
I'll end up a little bit more confused. But, you know, Giants, they haven't got to the point where they want to group yet. That is fair to say for them. They still are at this big point where they're not strong enough to actually group together, but H2K are taking a lot of objectives off this. They're now up to their second tower from a standard lanes game of 14 minutes is fairly quick when you look at it. And now they'll look to go for the middle lane. Can xPePii clear out the middle lane fast enough against the likes of an Ahri, a Caitlyn? I don't really feel like he can.
And even if he could, the risk of a dive from Braum plus TP Nautilus, oh, it's a scary situation to be in. Vander's not that tanky yet. Just Swifties and that's Sightstone.
But it's the hidden tankiness, right? Yeah. It's when he brings up Unbreakable. Teleport comes top lane, GODFRED, he's locked down.
He's gonna flash, but you can't flash the mine. Hook connects. Adryh's gonna be the focus of Vander and Jankos. And he's killed by the Glacial Fisher.
The 2v1.
He's got 7 seconds left before the dredge line is available. There's a flash and a dash. Betong fails the leap. He didn't make it over, I'm quite confident.
The animation started. I think Betong thought he was over in that situation, but there's some funny interactions around walls.
Well,
yes, but there's funny interactions. If you don't clear the wall completely, it can drag you back over. So BetongJocke forced to flash out from that as H2K were closing in on him.
Yeah, the pressure of being collapsed on. And look at this, H2K in a turret now going to focus down. They got another kill secured onto Adryh. This time it was Vander that picked it up. There's bloodthirsty supports, if you will. And a 16-minute inner turret just by pressuring at the right time.
Atom pushing the bot lane. He's getting something for his team, but honestly, it's a minor consolation prize considering the amount of pressure H2K have put topside, looking for the towers themselves. I mean, you've only got to now compare Odoamne and Atom. I feel like Odoamne has got such a better start to this game. Jankos doesn't care about BetongJocke anymore. He's just like, okay,
fight.
You can just attack me. That's fine. That's not a problem.
Finally got his warrior enchant completed. This is Jankos. But with the poke comp of Giants, and with any poke comp, whenever you hear the sentence that the enemy tank is ahead, it begins to completely mitigate because it allows Odo to just literally soak and absorb any of the poke and then decide when to engage with the mine. Dragon comes out and it is smote away, secured by BetongJocke.
Stop trying to use that word. If you haven't decided which it is.
I got a note from production saying that they believe it was smoked. But the thing is, it was a German member of our production team, so I don't know if I can trust it.
Wow.
Yeah, he's busy saying thanks to me, but I think that's a fair statement. Towers under pressure here from H2K.
I did. Oh,
forgiven.
Wow.
Almost go. Summon a heal. Right, that's enough distractions from me. Forgiven almost gets chunked down by the poke from Pepi.
You know, I had a point about something and I've now forgotten what it was. Thank you, Trevor.
Sure, it wasn't important.
I'll get back there. It's fine. No, I completely agree with you. I'll get it at some point.
H2K are currently getting everything they want. The outer mid lane turret's the focus. Odo's got a level advantage, holds on to the dredge line and continue trading back and forth. The depth charge will follow all the way over, and Giants are learning through repeated action that you can't flash away from that mine.
I've remembered what my point was. And it's not a groundbreaking point, but it's one that has to be kind of brought into when you're playing against a poke comp. So everybody always knows. Okay, Jankos doesn't want it. Always knows, hard engage beats it well. Nautilus, front on engage tends to be tough, but as soon as he gets to a fight, he has an incredible wealth of crowd control. He has the slow from Riptide. Remember, his autos will root people in place for 3/4 of a second every time he autos a new target every 12 seconds. So he can just walk around a fight, hitting people on the head. They can't kite back, can't land skill shots. And it's so difficult to deal with that kind of champion when he's ahead that somehow Giants have to find an answer to it. Whether it's Atom split pushing and trying to push a wave in that Nautilus is ultimately going to end up clearing and then gets a ZZ Rot portal later in the game anyway, I just don't feel like Giants have the options available to deal with Odo in this game.
No, I do not think they do either. Odo's about to get teleport available. Frozen Fist is up, so Adryh and Atom really going to have limited effect on that frontline tank. But luckily for them, there's a lot of magic damage from BetongJocke and Pepi, so given enough time, there is some possibilities there. But for Giants, you know, in straight up head-to-head lanes, they simply lost the lanes. BetongJocke did a great job in the jungle against Jankos, but unfortunately couldn't contribute or make that snowball into a laning advantage.
Well, maybe if Giants seem to be getting lost so often, maybe they can ask Adryh if he's got a map. But Odoamne in the bottom lane. He's going to try and 2v1 this. He's got Senpai cape and a lot of ability to just run away with these slows.
Yeah, that Riptide does really good work. Dredge line
He's going to turn
away. A flash forward from BetongJocke. Brander comes in with stand behind me. He puts down the Fisher. BetongJocke gets pulled back in, and it's Odo that gets the kill. They're not done yet, and Atom will be the target. He quick draws away, dodges a few skill shots before a flash stun locks him in place. Giants were so desperate to make a play that they ended up overextending and give away 2 kills.
Zero vision in the blue side jungle of H2K means that Giants, when chasing like that, don't have the information that there are 2 people coming from the base. It's impossible for them to get that vision right now because of how the game state is for themselves. They've basically, as you said, lost their lanes, and now H2K have constantly strangled the vision away from them. But Giants shouldn't be trying to make a play like that onto a tank when they have no real way of knowing who's where.
Yeah, unless you can count to 5. The enemy champions, I mean. You're going that deep. And we talk so much about the top of the table and where the guys are. We'll get back to that discussion in a moment, but this is Odo taking Giants on a...
Honestly, I think we can continue this discussion because this lasts a while and it's fairly straightforward at this point. You can see no vision in the jungle. H2K hardly even reacting to this.
Yeah.
I mean, it's only now really Braum's there, then Lee Sin's still running over. The length this play went on highlights the issue for Giants. At some point, you have to go, okay, well, let's just stop this. And BetongJocke is dead.
That's what Giants said. H2K said, let's stop this.
You're talking about the bottom of the table.
That's right, because H2K should be able to close this out as Adryh gets caught out. And all of a sudden, H2K are going to siege up. I'm going to get to make my point. 22 minutes in, inner turret number 5 is under threat. Minion wave will be dying shortly. Look, there's still good poke. You can see the chunks that get taken out of Jankos. They get taken out of Forgiven. But H2K, they're not relenting the pressure just yet.
Not yet, but every wave that comes in, the Janna shield, only Atom gets caught.
He does get caught. Winter's bite. Full tag, but there's no follow-up stun. Look at this, just from pressure line, Vander even catches the unbreakable. Remember, opted into a full poke composition with first pick Braum.
Yep. I mean, the thing is, the bans that Giants put out weren't too bad. Maybe they could have just left Lucian open, but then Lucian into Ezreal is the same kind of thing.
Yeah. And, you know, H2K, they're into playoffs. They're into the postseason. We know that they're going to have their challenges, and we'll talk about that as the split continues. But for Giants, with their current record at 2-11, they're starting to get closer and closer to guaranteeing a position in the promo relegation matches.
Yes.
And then when you start looking at some of the strength of the top of the table challenger squads like Millennium, like Huma, these are teams that can look at games like this and realistically expect to put up a very, very big fight.
Yeah, I would agree, especially when you look at, there is a bit of a divide right now in the playoffs in Challenger. I would also class Inspire as one of the teams that seem to be one of the ones that are performing above kind of what you'd expect, and so, even in some games performing what Giants are doing. Forgiven now gets caught.
He does, and look at the damage from xPePii. It's very, very good. An aggressive flash forward, but a defensive flash from Forgiven means that he gets away from the Monsoon. Read like a book, and GODFRED goes down. The dredge line onto Atom means H2K will find another kill as the Hex Drinker will time out. Ryu's looking for a third, and Odoamne can tank those skill shots for days.
Oh, well, Janna, you can see she's a good pick to facilitate a siege comp, but when you're then trying to go aggressive against somebody the likes of a Caitlyn, trying to make those flash plays is incredibly risky. You're Janna, you're going to die from that situation, so you have to make sure you're trading one for one. Forgiven reads it. This is one of the other strengths that people have talked about with Forgiven so much, is his ability to just dodge everything. Even flash Janna ultimates like that. It's just like, oh, well, I'll just get away. Not a problem.
What I love about it is there was this just little delay. Ryu, he'll continue to chase forward. Look at xPePii. He's got a lot of damage, but he can't take on two. Orbit Deception does not get the true damage proc. Vander now has to pick a direction from the True Shot Barrage. His Zephyr will slow Ryu ever so slightly, and there's no TP for Odo. So Giants are able to push H2K away. That is the best they do, is buy time.
It does nothing more than just slow H2K until Forgiven is with them. The problem is Giants are recalling off it as well, so H2K actually don't lose anything from it. I want to see exactly how this played out, because did Forgiven have any indicator from GODFRED, or was it just the flash for flash?
Oh, GODFRED, the moment he landed from the Howling Gale.
So there was actually a fair amount of gap from GODFRED that kind of gave Forgiven the window to flash away. I don't know whether you can make that play more crisp. Like, that's not an interaction I'm completely aware of, the flash double QR, but Forgiven still had the time to flash away nevertheless. Regardless of that, that was the play that was made.
You have to expect a player of his caliber, if he has flash available, to be able to do that.
Yeah.
One or the other, whether he flashed the Q earlier or just flashed the Monsoon, but regardless, 25 minutes in, 7,000 gold up, 8 kills up, 4 towers up. H2K just grabbed their first dragon as well. Look at the itemization. Spectre's Cowl and Chain Vest. Jankos has got his hands on Arandian's Omen as well. Even a Locket for Vander. In contrast, you know, GODFRED's opposite number, Frost Queen's Claim, Swifties, and Sightstone. There is no tankiness to speak of there.
No, none. I mean, get some shields on people.
Yeah.
And the same remains to be said. Atom right now does not have a lot of damage himself.
No.
He's got a Hex Drinker, he's got Death Stance, which he had from the beginning as his first item, and now he's got Last Whisper. Last Whisper is not a very efficient item right now. It's so difficult to chunk through armor. TP's coming in, though, could potentially be a fight. Ezreal gets blocked.
It does. The Unbreakable will deny that. Baron is still beating away on Vander, and he's killed by the collateral damage. That's a pickup. Baron did not reset. In actual fact, it's going very, very low. H2K decide to re-engage. Baron's picked up by Giants. They're going to even up the gold gap, but they've lost BetongJocke. Giants are trying to peel away with their lives. Atom will use the Hex Drinker to stay alive. He takes down Ryu. Odo is still up, but not for much longer. And all of a sudden, the B word happens and Giants claw back into it.
H2K with the misplay. They didn't adjust properly after starting that Baron. There was no real decisive call being made, and we talked about how if you have a poke siege composition into Braum, it doesn't really work out. Well, if the Braum is dead, who's there to stop the damage going forward? Because look at this. Forgiven and Vander was stacked and took a bit of damage here to begin with. Good block on the Ezreal ult, but Forgiven took follow-up damage. I believe it was from BetongJocke. At this point, I want to see how the fight readjusts back down, because Jankos was already running out. I don't think he was expecting Giants to start this up, because look how low he is here. Forgiven still low from the fight, still not autoing, still can't output damage at this point. There's no real way he can get into this fight until he goes aggressive onto Adryh, who was full health. That's an easy fight decision from the Giants, and that could have just brought them back into this game.
It has evened it out for sure. Only 1,000 gold difference. The Baron power play is already at 4,400 gold. That Giants have earned more than H2K in this time frame. But I think so crucially for Giants is the opportunity to try play the sideways. Maybe try knock down that last outer turret up top. That's something that they have to look to set up and not be over-eager, because Odo's got his TP.
And that's the thing now, if you're Giants, you've got to commit to the smaller objectives at this point, I feel like. Trying to brute force mid lane probably isn't going to work with the Caitlyn wave clear there. If it was just the Ahri, I'd say you have the wave clear to get... they don't have the wave clear really to hold it. Problem is, there's very easy objectives available. H2K will not fight you over top outer tower at this point. That is not a fight that they ever want to take. So you can get that for free if you send one person up there, two people up there maybe, and then just kind of hold mid lane. Problem is, Giants, they've got a big wave pushing in towards them. That's going to slow down their Baron power play in the bottom lane. But they're not making ground in this middle lane. They're just standing here. And they're getting flanked at the same time. Look at the positioning from Odoamne. Look at the positioning from Ryu. They're looking to come around the side.
Yeah, Pepi forced to use the package defensively. Side lanes are gigantic for H2K. There was nobody from Giants to push that out to start this play. And that's one of the weaknesses that we're starting to see, or that we're continuing to see, might be a more fair term. The minion wave alone is going to take down 50% of the hit points. On that bottom tower, look how quickly it's being hammered.
Baron is timing out at the same time, so Giants, instead of opting to take something, take anything from this Baron power play. Oh, Atom.
Yeah, he is in trouble, but he's got a lot of tankiness, remember. Got that Death Dance available, as well as the Sterex Gauge and a Hex Drinker, so it's going to take a lot to commit. The tower will stand thanks to Giants responding, but the Baron power play ends. It was the equalizing play.
Yes.
It wasn't going to give them the lead, but that has brought Giants now into combat strength of H2K.
It was a decent Baron power play with 4,500 around about. Problem is, they could have got more from it. This is me being a little bit greedy and just saying that if they'd have put somebody topside, they may have been able to push it out, or at least kill the ZZ Rock portal that Odoamne put down, because that's now going to mean top's always pushing in towards you, and it creates a problem for a minute, 2 minutes in the future. Yeah. Because now somebody from Giants has to go up there and clear it. Dragon's up in 1 minute. That wave's still going to push out. If you don't clear out the ZZ Rock portal by overextending as a single person, then it's just going to continue to be a neutralized lane for you. You can't play off it.
And as Giants team comp, with all of the 80 carries they have in their team comp, that second dragon is just so incredibly important. The damage over time that will allow them to push those waves down. I somewhat feel the same for Forgiven on Caitlyn. Just walk up, get that loss, get that auto attack despite not having the rapid fire cannon.
Jankos got it. Yeah. So the funny thing is actually, so I saw a couple of different people do the maths on the Dragon 2 buff. If you actually are constantly attacking the tower, I believe it's actually slightly lower damage. I'd have to get the exact numbers, but I know that if you're kind of like periodically attacking it, then it actually adds up to be more.
That's why I like it with a Caitlyn. Just walk up, get the auto. When you see an opportunity, walk away. Now, there's not a lot of engaged threat from Giants, so technically that risk is lower, but
this is the play Giants should have made like 3 minutes ago when they had Baron, because they just stacked everybody top lane. They don't even get the outer tower, and they're losing damage on, or they're taking damage on the middle inhibitor tower right now. That's a very aggressive ZZ Rock portal that will get killed very quickly, because there's no way Odo can get rid of it. But they are now trading it for the Dragon.
Well worth indeed if you're H2K. Only the third dragon of the game at 33 minutes, 32 minutes. But it doesn't really matter when you consider H2K have all of the map control, really. Every time there's a play or something happening, it's at H2K's decision. Atom's going to get bonked on the head by Odoamne with those passives, those autos. And Forgiven's now on the front line. Remember, there's no tank from Giants. Ryu's used the spur rush. He continues to push forward. Atom is still tanking up the team. That Graves is very, very beefy. Javelin toss will not find anybody. Stand behind me. Comes out from Vander. Unbreakable's been used to block the damage. Nobody's gone down yet, and everything's been thrown into the mid lane.
There may not be a full-on tank for Giants, but look at how much damage Atom was able to soak up with the Sterix, with the Hex Drinker and the Death's Dance. 3 hybrid defense and offense items there to keep him alive. Makes him very difficult to deal with, including the passive as well.
Yeah, I think by this point, we're going to call him a non-traditional tank. But BetongJocke does get caught out. Teleport's been used by Odo.
Forgiven's
He's
down.
coming in from behind, but Forgiven is down. Odo wants to put damage and wants to put AoE down. There is no depth charge available, and he's been killed by Giants. Giants pick up their 6th kill. They're not done yet. The minions will get to this tower shortly. And all of a sudden, Giants take the lead.
And you can see how well Giants can kite back once the fight has already begun. Yes, the Nautilus has damage if he can auto, has CC if he can auto you and lock you down, but if you've got an Ezreal that's jumping backwards, a Corki that's jumping backwards as well, TP onto the minion, Giants may be looking to wrap this game up fairly quickly.
There is still 25 seconds before Odo's up. Forgiven's back in 10. There's supers to deal with. And H2K have to deal with a Baron threat from Giants. That is not something that I expected myself to say, especially on the looking at picks and bans, but Graves has been given enough time and enough kills to be relevant. This was after he tanked up 5 members of H2K for ages.
At this point, Vander didn't really catch, or maybe just didn't see the Ezreal ult coming, didn't catch it for Forgiven. And Forgiven, in multiple fights in this game, hasn't been able to output damage because Giants have been poking down and then starting the fight. Like you need to do with a composition like this is you get the early damage on and make sure the enemy can never fight you. And Forgiven is just getting too low before these fights. Just real tough setup for H2K right now. That unless they get Odoamne in on the flank, Ryu in on the flank, it's tough to lock down Adryh.
It certainly is, and Pepi's he's actually finding a lot of damage to put down throughout the course of the fight. 0-0-5. But Atom being on the front line, that Graves with true grit. Now more Malmortius in conjunction. Very aggressive. Pepi goes all the way forward, but he takes a lot of damage. Will get healed up by the Monsoon. H2K start to peel backwards. No reset tool for Giants now. Odo has no teleport either, so that's at least one of the flanking options down. But look, side lane has been pushed.
Again, there's one lane that Giants aren't playing off, and it will start pushing down. I mean, it's already there. Next wave should join it and should push to the inhibitor, which draws somebody back. I mean, Giants are trying to set a Baron with a wave behind them and the Rift Scuttler up. This is not the best scenario. They're doing it very quickly, though. That is dying so fast.
There is so much damage. Giants sneak a Baron. They managed to pick up the previous one after punishing H2K.
I mean, there was no sneak about it. That was just Giants straight up saying, we have a fast Baron. We'll take it down. And they are actually making a lot better plays this time in the game. Second Baron of the game for Giants right now. We're at 35 minutes in. They can look for that top side, neutralize a lot of what H2K have been piling on the pressure down there. Ryu has had to come down and deal with the bottom side as well. He will be able to clear it out before the tower goes down. But that's now a low tower that Giants can just swing to very quickly.
Might be the longest standing outer turret in Spring Split this year. I'd have to verify that. It's interesting to note that, you know, Giants, I touched on their record. I touched on the fact that they are facing promo relegation with their 2-11 record. And right now, they are on track to take down H2K by punishing a poor Baron call.
Yeah, they are. I mean, for Giants, they've had a very simple setup here, and they're playing it out pretty well now.
They certainly are. The gold graph, you can see, Giants have never had a gold lead at 30 minutes, even in the games that they have won, and that statement is still true in this game. They finally clawed ahead at about 33, 34 minutes in. Inhibitor? Giants get respawned.
Giants are killing me. You gotta clear the side waves. Clear the side waves and push multiple lanes. There's no point being mid right now because you've got siege minions pushing. You do not need to be there with them to try and end the game because you're not gonna do it in this setup. It's too difficult to do. Take easy objectives. Go from being slightly, or going from being slightly ahead to way ahead with your gold.
For Atom, no teleport. Odo's just got his available. The only problem is, if they lose Atom, there's no front line for Giants. They need his presence. They need that Graves to be pulling attention from H2K. You can see how aggressive, how far forward he's playing. Every team fight that Giants have won has been with Atom leading the charge. And look, Minions still pushing that bottom inhibitor turret. Giants are committed. Facing the hold doesn't do a whole lot. Actually, doesn't even really hurt Adryh. Thanks to all the AP. That's a lot of damage. Defensive arcane shift backwards, and the siege is on. 30 seconds left on Baron and 2 siege minions. 1 siege minion. Still alive.
Still alive and trying, but Smite comes down from Jankos. Atom, that's only a bit of damage. Pops hysterics.
It does indeed. That's very important. If H2K want to go, there's wards all the way down the lane. Odo can try the flank, but it needs to be right. It didn't work.
There's 2 closer wards behind them as well, just on that kind of middle bush that is in the lane. He needs the home guard with it, though, I feel. It's too easy to read without. Goes head on.
Caught BetongJocke, but there's no charm to follow it up. Glacial Fish is there for Vander. He's not jumped in yet. Zizurot to help deal with the supers in the mid lane. I think that's a clever adaptation from Odo. Giants looking to reset. The inhibitor should be respawning shortly, has just done so. And all of a sudden, the pressure is now on this turret. It will fall with 1 or 2 more hits, but Vander's playing defensive duty. He's trying to catch it. The Unbreakable's up. GODFRED gets caught, and he's taken out. With GODFRED down, there's no more Monsoon for a reset. xPePii's found by Jankos as well. Kicked on the back foot. Odo and Jankos are trying to play catch with all of Giants. They've traded a support for a jungler, but they've lost an inhibitor in the trade, and Forgiven's going low. Giants are on the cusp of taking down one of Europe's best teams.
Atom got right in the face of Forgiven and denied him entry to the team fight. Now Forgiven, full health, comes back to the fight.
It does indeed. BetongJocke is killed. Giants stick around far too long. They get supers in the middle lane, but there's minute-long death timers. Baron is not alive. Dragon is, and H2K have got a reprieve in the game.
Atom did such a good job of denying Forgiven anything in that fight. He gets straight onto him, bursts everything. The main focus of the fight was around what was happening on the inhibitor, but the crucial part was over on the right-hand side. In the replay, I hope we get to see that again, because if you didn't catch it the first time, Atom is doing such a good job, and it denies H2K the ability to fight. Ryu's damage has started to drop off on anything other than the likes of Adryh and xPePii, and even then, the shields are coming from GODFRED to keep them alive.
And it's very late, but we've simply not felt Ryu's impact. He hasn't been able to find anybody and really burst them down. 0-1-3. Here's that fight. Atom on the right.
Yeah, you can see Atom moving up and towards Forgiven the entire time there. Yes, he has to flash to go back in, but look at Forgiven's health. He can't realistically kite into Adryh and xPePii at this point, or at least look to auto-attack here, because they have so much upfront damage. He's not put out autos for a good 10 seconds in that fight, and if your AD carry that is based on auto-attack and cannot auto, you have no damage.
Yeah, certainly the case. Jankos is going to be fending off a gigantic minion wave up top. Finally, that outer turret fell. Giants were able to take it down. They still maintain a gold lead. While we were in the replay, Dragon number 3 was secured by H2K. And a multitude of wards placed in the bottom quadrant of the jungle. Over 40 minutes into the game. And truthfully, this game balances on a knife's edge.
It does, but I mean, Giants have started to find their feet, but do we trust them to end the game with this kind of setup for themselves? It's a fairly straightforward composition, but the way that they just didn't take the initiative off the 2 Barons they've had, is it going to be a 3rd Baron for Giants? Because that surely ends the game for them. The problem is, if H2K fight them at Baron and don't get chunked down fairly early, Giants can't pick it up safely, can't win the game off it, and H2K may be able to turn this game back around in their favor for what was a very heavily H2K-sided game from the beginning of it.
50 seconds before Baron is up. 2 blue trinkets available. 1 blue trinket available for Giants. Adryh gets an ace in the hole. The GODFRED blocks some of the damage with that Eye of the Storm. And looking down, teleport is up for Odo. Looking at flashes. Only Ryu on the side of H2K has his available. And only GODFRED on the side of Giants has his. So summoners are even running dry.
This is getting a little bit better for the Giants with the way that Atom is playing. He's pushing out the bottom lane. This is the basics. When you're setting up for Baron, put the pressure direct opposite side of the map. He's pushing it out, forcing Odoamne over here, and if at any point anybody other than Odoamne comes to that bottom side, that's when they start the Baron. Problem is, there's wards already in the Baron pit.
There is a lot of
wards. Are they
wards.
really starting that with 2 wards there?
They certainly are.
I mean, you know they're going to use Blue Trinket anyway, but...
Gonna find them. Odo connects with the wall with the dredge line and gonna back away. So they've at least stopped the Baron attempt for now. Dredge line number 2 will not find a target. Atom held his nerve and has not teleported. So he's gonna be able to expose, if not kill, this in-hit.
This is a situation that they needed. Do not commit to the Baron now, Giants. All you have to do is posture around the area and threaten the attempt. Now they get engaged on.
Everybody from H2K is going forward. There's no front line for Giants. They needed Atom. Atom's taken the inhibitor. He has minions pushing with him onto the Nexus turret. Can Giants play
Jankos
spoiler?
recalls here, though.
There are recalls coming in. BetongJocke gets caught by Odo, but as long as Odo's busy, Jankos is going to be jumping onto Atom. There's a fight in the Baron pit as Ryu and Vander are looking for GODFRED. Eye of the Storm will keep GODFRED alive. He continues to stay alive. Odo finally kills down BetongJocke, while Atom, I think, made it out of the base. But super minions in the bottom lane. 2 death timers on the side of Giants. H2K have to reset.
60 seconds on the jungler for Giants means that H2K could look to do a 3-man on the Baron here and look to take it down. They need somebody like Ryu to stay in wave clear. He's shoving out the mid lane already to buy them extra time.
The problem is H2K have such a slow Baron. It's what cost them 20 minutes of this game, and there's no inventory space for pink wards.
Mid inhib did just come up though, so that is one kind of bastion of hope for them, that they're now not really playing with that disadvantaged mid lane. Look at the traps, this is so good. They know they've got a slow Baron clear, so place 2 traps on either entrance, make sure nobody can come down that ramp. Ezreal ult is coming, but it's too early and not enough damage. Nothing really to be done here. BetongJocke still not around. That's going to be the Baron.
It does go to H2K. There's no contest. They may be stuck in the pit. The recalls come out, and they're not interrupted. Oh, Vander's actually going to flash over the wall. I got a bit excited for the fight, but H2K, they get their first Baron of the game. And they can now push up, but they are just catching up in gold.
Man, Giants... BetongJocke started the Baron again. Or somebody started it and it hit him, and I think Giants kind of panicked. And they were like, are we starting this? Do we back away? Atom's pushing bot. We don't need to. We should just kite back. And half the team wasn't kiting back fast enough. H2K closed the gap on them and forced them into 2 separate fights and allowed Jankos to recall with Forgiven to deal with the push on the bottom side. And
we both held up right there.
Yeah. Whew. I mean, deep down, it wasn't hitting. We kind of knew it, but you see it. You see the angle line up.
That's it. Odo had hoped it would find its target. Static Shiv, Phantom Dancer, BT for Forgiven. He's pushing forward now with that shield, and Baron-empowered minions means those towers and 3 dragon buffs will fall very shortly.
Realistically, if that hook hit, then it's unforgivable. With Flash and the Ezreal E up, there was no reason to get hit by that.
Stress, 40 seconds until dragon number 4 is available. H2K can deal with some turret. Oh, the charm finds xPePii. The dredge line does too. xPePii's going to get away with his life for now. Monsoon has been used, and Sterex has been popped from Atom, but H2K do not find a kill.
Atom's picked himself up a GA though. Another hook goes wide from Odo. From what was such a good early game from Odo, he's really struggled to find impact in these team fights. Head-on engages are so difficult against the likes of a Janna who has the disengage, and the mobility on the Giants lineup that can just get themselves back and out of fights.
But Giants are still primarily playing on 2 lanes. The top lane is pushing towards their tower once again. Inhibitor trying to catch a glimpse of the timer. They will be respawning shortly for H2K, and it'll buy them time. So this was the replay that got H2K the Baron eventually.
Yes, so at this point, BetongJocke had taken some Baron damage, and look, it's 2 separate fights. They already have collapsed on Adryh. There goes a lot of the ability to kite back because they've got no Iceborne Gauntlet anymore. And H2K are able to get Jankos out safely. Nobody spots him recalling. Forgiven goes a little bit further up and recalls himself. But this was fairly clean cut from H2K.
Yeah. Gigantic shield there from GODFRED with the Locket plus Eye of the Storm. And Dragon number 4. So, damage reduction from towers and 6-minute timer until Aspect is a thing, which will help H2K when you consider Ryu's not assassinating people. Odo with an additional dot with some of his AoE going to play into his favor as well. So more tools to get through the 6 members with Atom's GA.
I've kind of got to give it a little bit to Giants, though, in this game. No way would you have expected to be in this situation. 46 minutes in and still in an even game with H2K. It looked very rough at the beginning. Lane advantage went to H2K. They won every lane, but Giants, they grouped up well. There was that Baron play by H2K that really turned this game around. And Giants has been back and forth ever since.
It certainly has. Baron, bottom inhibitor will be respawning very, very soon. So H2K pushed that wave out. I think there's a Drop portal working in their favor. Jankos looking for the flank opportunity, looking for a target to kick. He's got a flash available as well. The opportunity is here. If somebody steps on a trap, Atom takes a gigantic hit from Forgiven. Dredgeline is going to follow through, and Ryu finally finds his man. Atom is thrown up into the air for days. He will follow shortly. BetongJocke goes down, and Atom finally goes out. The GA has popped. It's a double kill for Forgiven. Oh, there's some celebration from H2K, but that was very, very close. With 1 minute death timers, they're pushing for the base.
Jankos puts the marker on the floor, and X marked the spot for Ryu of where he had to charm. Completely in tune with each other, the two of them. The kick into the charm. Giants want to try and stop the push here from H2K. They want to take the inhibitor just to start spawning supers. This is a last-ditch attempt here from the Giants. They're not going to get it, but they slowed the minions, if nothing else. Has Odoamne got the tankiness to survive through? I don't think so, actually. With this minion wave, this is the end of the game.
It may just be. It's going to be dramatic, just like the rest of the match. Jankos connects the Sonic Wave with Adryh and continues to chase forward. Dragon's Rage backwards into a re-warp of Deception. That's 2 more kills for H2K. The Nexus turrets fall, and in what was a dramatic finish, H2K finished the weekend undefeated. Forgiven goes uncontested and continues to prove why he is one of the best AD carries in Europe. Vander very clearly happy. A moment that we've become very accustomed to.
H2K, 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 H2K.
H2K chance aplenty. But my word, have they got a lot to answer for in that game.
Oh, they didn't make it difficult. They didn't make it easy on themselves. Giants made it a little bit more difficult on H2K, and what looked to be a certain game for H2K really turned around with that Baron play. And Giants, you know, they finally managed to get that composition. It wasn't super clean. Wasn't always the right decisions that were being made by Giants, but they started to look a little bit better in that game. But H2K ultimately come out with the victory off a very good setup from Jankos.
You can see the customary chat there between Adryh and xPePii. Probably happy it was a win, but I look forward to hearing his explanation on that Baron call and hearing what the players have to say, because it looks scary. There was a time when I thought Giants may have had what it took to finish that game out, Stress.
It looked like they should have, but
heart goes out to Forgiven. It was a tough situation for H2K and for Forgiven, but what a phenomenal performance. Plus 55 CS by 20 minutes, knocked over 2 towers. Forgiven and Vander definitely deserve a lot of praise. But it is bittersweet, is it not?
It is, especially in such a, what looked to be such a clean game.
Yeah.
And the game that you would expect, and the one that would be the lasting impression of win lane, win game, a little bit tarnished by the actual mid-game plays in that setup, but a win is a win for H2K. As a team, they have to just continue looking forward. At this point, when you're on the top of the standings, it's all about now they've got the playoffs, now it's get that semi-final bye, book your ticket to Rotterdam before the regular season is even over.
Yeah.
Just get that first or second spot and get yourselves there. That's what the team and the organization have to be looking at now.
Luckily for H2K, not only are they up at the top of the table, but they've got some pretty good head-to-head records against some of those guys around them. So that could play into their favor as we get closer and closer to the end of the splits. And